Hi, my name is Aaliyah Gabriel, and my intellectual AV mix project is going to be about cultural appropriation and more specifically cultural appropriation in the fashion industry. So, cultural appropriation is basically the use of objects, or in this case, fashion pieces, clothes, and other jewelry and stuff like that. And it doesn't give respect or credit to the original meaning of where these pieces came from and how they became fashion. And they don't really give a source, and they kind of take it as their own. And they take credit for the pieces and make it into more of a trend instead of giving credit to the culture. So the video that I decided to show is a video about a bunch of different cultures and races talking about the difference between cultural appreciation and appropriation in the fashion industry and why cultural appropriation in the fashion industry is so hurtful to them.
I would describe cultural appropriation as taking something that has cultural, spiritual significance and stealing from it.
Cultural appropriation to me is when you make it a costume and it's not coming from an authentic, genuine place.
Something from a culture is being used without proper reference.
Cultural appropriation in my own culture, being a black woman, my hair was definitely quite a hot topic. It only took people or celebrities of a certain colour to make these hairstyles almost seem respectable or seems trendy. That for me was kind of like an insult.
There was a phase where everyone wore keffiyehs, not really realising what a keffiyeh was in any way, which is like a traditional Palestinian scarf, associations with political alliance, and it became like a wider fashion thing.
When I see artists diving into Chinese culture and they're kind of using it in a way where, is this anything to do with your narrative? Is this just merely an accessory, a trend to your work? That's when I feel it's getting a bit inappropriate.
You can't just pick and choose what you think is cool from their cultures and use it to make money.
Call out culture is a bit crazy, so if you're not careful, you might get caught slipping.
Cultural appreciation is when you actually work with the people from the culture that you're taking something from.
I'm inspired by this and I also want to contribute to this culture as well.
The type of model high fashion brands use in their campaigns indicate who their target market is.
You're very inspired by, say, Moroccan culture, put a North African model in your clothes.
Good example of somebody doing it right is Fenty. Bella Hadid came out in a yellow lingerie, but there was a headdress kind of reminiscent of a hijab. The fact that she used the Palestinian model reflects the lack of backlash.
There are already so many people doing whatever you want to do, and they will do it 10 times better than you can.
Big fashion brands can avoid having these types of backlash when they get people from the culture to consult.
I don't feel like there's actual need for another person that isn't part of my culture to now go and represent. Just let the people that are actually of the culture talk.
It'd be so easy for brands to give these people a platform and a voice and say, we really appreciate your artisanal skills, hire them to make the garments.
So if you've taken inspiration from a certain culture, make sure that everyone knows the story of where it came from, how it came about.
A small interview, just giving credit towards that, I think makes the whole difference. What I feel makes people so angry when, you're not really acknowledging what its actual roots are.
How did you make this a space that is more about them as well? Because a culture doesn't exist without its people.
So in that video, it basically talks about what they think that cultural appropriation is in different cultures and what it is in fashion and how fashion companies can cultural appropriate their cultures. So all the different cultures feel offended that fashion will take pieces from their culture and make them trendy without kind of giving them credit. And also they gave the example of the model Bella Hadid they actually got the right model and the right culture to wear the cultural scarf, which is what they want to see, instead of putting it on models that will relate to kind of the customers of the brand. So, and then it also talks about the cultural appropriation versus appreciation. And again, getting the models that are of the right culture and also giving credit to the culture and the roots of where these pieces are coming from.
You learn about the world and the people in it, you quickly realize just how beautiful and diverse it is. So where's the line between cultural exchange, appreciation, and appropriation? Why does it even matter? Here are 7 myths about cultural appropriation debunked. You're just looking for something to be offended by. It's just clothing, hairstyles, decorations, whatever. Don't you have something better to worry about? Okay, first off, it's possible to care about more than one issue at a time. The main problem with cultural appropriation comes from dominant groups borrowing from marginalized groups who face oppression or have been stigmatized for their cultural practices throughout history. Like cornrows. I mean, anyone can wear their hair in cornrows, but Black people still face stigmas for wearing them, along with perfectly natural hairstyles like braids and locks. There are even companies and schools that prohibit these natural hairstyles. People have actually been fired for wearing braids. Meanwhile, fashion models and celebs like Kylie Jenner get praised for wearing cornrows. And that's the main point. One group is being penalized by institutions for wearing natural hairstyles, while the other is called edgy and stylish for doing the exact same thing. I'm doing it because...
So I just pulled a little chunk out of that audio to relate to the topic of cultural appropriation. And her main point was one culture will get shamed for it while the other will get praised for it, which was exactly what I showed in the photo. Over the audio, it was Kim Kardashian, and she had braids in, which a lot of people thought was cultural appropriation because she didn't really give source or credit to why she was wearing the braids. She just kind of was for fun and for a fashion statement, which is not okay. And it also relates to another topic, which is African Americans can get shamed for the color of their skin, yet white people are praised by how tan they are, which is, again, not okay and total cultural appropriation. And this relates back to one of the stories we read where the Black man was kind of ashamed to be Black and be in his culture because of things like this. And obviously it wasn't discreetly cultural appropriation in fashion, but they're shamed for a lot of different things, and other cultures that are not supposed to take their culture and make it kind of a trend, which is not okay and makes the whole meaning behind the things that they do meaningless.